Now, Brodie, you mentioned it. Recovering alcoholic, recovering drug addict. You know, your Instagram profile said drug addict to CEO. So we're going to talk about the CEO stuff. And I know you're okay with sharing it because you put it out there so much. And thank you for that, because I know there's hundreds, if not thousands of people listening and watching who are probably going through the same shit, right? And they're either scared or really just worried, or even maybe going down a spiral that you maybe were close to going. How bad did it get, man?
So the year that I was 21, I overdosed 6 times, three of which were 3 days in a row at the end of my run. And you know, finally, out of a point of desperation, I checked myself into a rehab facility and started to gain some clarity. I found the program of AA. And, you know, in the things that I learned in these crazy, this book of AA that just is full of shit that I didn't want to hear, I found a toolkit for dealing with life. And it allowed, and then I had all this alcoholic energy that I didn't know what to do with. And I became obsessed with self-development. Now, before we move on, there's something that I want to talk about. You mentioned, like, you know, that I'm open about talking about stuff. And I just did an Instagram live for about an hour, so I'm real warmed up. We're really in the zone. But I was talking about the idea of being powerless. And this is something that I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Like the first step in AA is admitted that I was powerless over alcohol. And I was. And there's been a ton of things that I've been powerless over in my life. And this idea of showing up powerfully in the world, whether that's how people project, like, say that or not, that's what they want. And so for me, I want to show up powerfully as an entrepreneur. I want to show up powerfully on this podcast for your audience. I want to show up powerfully as a husband, as a father. And in order to show up powerfully, I cannot be powerless over certain things and situations that people are not okay with sharing with other people. So like my gift to the world has always been ruthless transparency, because
transparency. I love that word. Okay.
Because if I am not willing to share my past, my darkest shit with the world, that means it has power over me. But whenever I'm able to share that with another human being, I claim my power there. And so I like to say that transformation happens in the transparency. And so if there's something that someone has that they struggle to face in their past, whatever, when you share that, when you're vulnerable about that, that's where growth happens. And the interesting thing is, if you don't, like, there's this thing that I can't remember who told me this, but if you do not want to repeat the past, you must complete the past. And so what that means is, like, you have to face all that shit, everything that has led you up until this point. You got to face that shit with no judgment. You have to accept it. Acceptance is one of the most powerful words in the human language, and you have to move forward. And that's what I do.
And is this like a morning ritual you go through? Like, how do you get yourself right into that state and changing that state essentially?
So it is done through a lot of deep work. And for a long time, it was part of my morning ritual, and still gratitude is a big part of my morning ritual. But, you know, it has evolved for me into a state of being. And that happened over time, right? And then so it comes down by putting in the reps, by putting in the actions, by really, you know, digging up my past, sharing it, talking about shit that nobody wants to talk about and nobody wants to look at from their past because it's uncomfortable, it's real, it's raw, it's relevant, and it's scary ultimately. And that's why most people do it, right? And then so, like, for me, a big thing for me is, like, I like everything that I teach all my guys that I work with, and like a big thing that I'm about is just stop fucking lying. Like, we all have that shit that we hide. Like, don't fucking lie. Like, don't stop hiding shit and your life will get better, right? But if you hide that shit, like, everybody has their form of sedation, drugs, alcohol, women, porn, whatever. I speak largely to men, so you know, keep that in context, right? But like drugs, alcohol, women, porn, like cigarettes, like everybody has their form of sedation, and it all has power over them.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the REC Experience. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Click here to watch and experience more videos from REC.